Waitanker chiefs are all very, very, very happy about this. What happened next caught everybody's surprise. For the first time in history, signals were used, flag signals, to ask for reserves. And reserves arrived by train. Confederate reserves arrived by train. And actually this was the first time that troops had arrived by train to a battle. And then they assembled, and then they swept down and routed the Union Army. And the first battle of the American Civil War was a resounding Confederate success. And then it kept happening. And the North made the mistake of letting them fight this Napoleonic-style campaign. It's only later on in the war that Grant comes along and says, we'll just go and fight, and we'll lose, because we have to attack, because the advantage is with the defender. And then we'll advance, and we'll fight, and we'll lose, and we'll fight, and we'll lose. Lee's advisors said about Grant, this guy's a nutcase, he's a butcher. Lee went, yeah, and if he carries on, I'm going to be out men within 3 weeks. And that's exactly what happened. He just drowned them in bodies, drowned them in men. And Grant made the decision to do it because he wanted it over. I'm just waiting for our battle orders to start. We've got our cannons. I'll tell you a little bit about the cannons while we're waiting. During the American Civil War, all the guns are rifled, except the cannons. And there's a reason for this. 12-pound Napoleon cannon has a 4-inch barrel, it fires a variety of ammunition, and it's smoothbore. In the right hand, you can hit a barn at a mile. A rifled Parrott gun, which is the equivalent in rifles, can hit the barn door. So the accuracy at a mile isn't that different. However, our friend the cannon, which we're going to have a look at, can fire a variety of ammunition. First and foremost, it can fire shot, a single solid ball, which is real hands. When you've got a rifle barrel, it spins them out and it doesn't work.
Wow!
So these guns can fire 4 ammunition and they're rifle parts.
We'll see how this goes.
These were favoured. Also, what happened, of course, is the fact that no American Civil War battle has ever taken place at a range more than a mile. So actually, there was no point going for the more accurate guns. The Union Army there responded to the fact that skirmishers are coming on the field, and they've recovered 2 of those cannons. So you can see they're recovering 2 of those cannons. You can see just how heavy they are. And this is a fairly nice flat field, thank you, Hull Park. Imagine that this was a rough terrain, and you can understand why horses would normally run.
Look, Archie, it's Jasmine.
Further back to this in real life. But for the purpose of today's demonstration, we're going to leave them here so you can see what's going to happen. So skirmishers are approaching the Union sentries who fled the field, leaving. They've recovered 2 of the guns, but 1 of the guns has remained there. Like I said to you, the Confederates, if they capture this, would be very useful.
What's that?
This is only a
That's the cannon, baby.
So they don't really want to be engaged with heavy infantry, but they've seen their opportunity and they're going to try and steal this gun. You saw that they were not fighting in the order of our skirmishers here. We're not fighting in line order, they're fighting in skirmish, which is 2 by 2. 1 man moves, 1 man fires. And actually the man at the front calls ready, the man at the back loads, calls ready, and when he calls ready, the man at the front fires, and that's when he moves as his friend is firing. And when they reverse him, they do exactly the same. So they're going to capture this Confederate cannon, they're going to capture this cannon, and they're going to try and move this cannon back to the Confederate lines. Both sides were using these guns, so again, ammunition is prevalent on both sides. So the Confederates will have ammunition for a 12-pound Napoleon. The 12-pound Napoleon is known as the only gun of the American Civil War. It did have a little other, the
This is not a mag cup.
field gun, which is half the size, a smaller field piece, but not anywhere near as prevalent as the 12-pound. The Confederates actually did make some of these, and they made them in brass. Because,
Archie, it's going to be wow, okay? Wow! Good boy!
Back there, they're going to say,
well done!
5 It's now returning fire on our Confederates.
Well done,
and I was
baby!
talking about that shell that rains down, that exploded shell. You might see some of that happening around the Confederates. If the Union Army, if the Union artillery could get its range right.
Was he talking?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just sat there watching.
Alright, fine. me another one.
Now, there we go. Now, to fire one of these cannons, I'll show you what's going on here. First of all, stop the vents. So the hole at the back of the cannon has to be covered so that air doesn't get in the barrel.
Well done.
That's what happened.
I'm trying positive reinforcement.
Is the fact that that removed any debris. Then the wet sponge that is just done. This is to extinguish anything burning in the barrel before.
Oh wow! Yes, a roller coaster.
Take the water out, turn the ram around, advance it round in the chamber. Now this guy is going to fry. Our cannon crew here is going to fry. He puts like a steel pin down the touch hole into the ground, and then puts a primer on, calls ready, and that we're good to go.
Wow,
and the Union artillery are actually getting their range a lot better here. You can see that they're actually landing some shells in and around.
Just going to sound a bit more lame if I'm saying this all on camera.
We talked about the Union earlier being given lots of good stuff to fight wars with. In the war between the blue and the grey, the first thing you're going to notice is most of our Confederates are not dressed in grey. They're dressed in this colour, which is called butternut. The Confederates decided they would like a nice new uniform, so they decided to go for dark brown. They didn't have enough wool, so they mixed cotton and wool to make something called jean cloth, and not only did they mix it to make jean cloth, they dyed it dark brown, which promptly faded in the sun into this wonderful range of colours we now know as butternut. Not only that, but the Confederate government, don't forget, had broken away so that states could have their own rights. States refused to subsidize their colours or their uniforms, so you end up with a whole variety of colours and uniforms. Some states didn't want to go brown, some states decided they were going to go grey, keep it silver, some states imported English blue from England, some states just refused to cooperate because they just seceded to not have government control. So they weren't going to have government control, even of their own government. So we end up with a mad mix of what's going on, and you can see this very much in our Confederates. It doesn't answer the question, where does the grey come from? Well, the grey, and our model there in the middle of the Confederate line, second from the left, he is wearing...
Wow-wee!
Ladies and gentlemen, I was talking about the power of these guns. I don't know if you all saw that. That was a smoke ring that was coming out of the cannon. That's just pure air. So even though we're not firing any live bullets today, you can see that the amount of power coming out of that pushes the smoke that far is pretty dangerous. So you may understand why some caution needs to be taken about where we are standing and how close we actually get to each other with these things.
Good boy, well
Just
done.
to reiterate the safety instructions, ladies and gentlemen, if it is too loud for you, put your hands in front of your ears and please open your mouths just ever so slightly. If you put your hands in your ears, keep your mouth shut, you'll create a block of air in your head which will get reverberated around by the shock waves created by the cannons, and you'll all go home with headaches. We don't want that. Hands in front of your... No, Mum. Front of your ears. That's it. Mouths open. There we go. Again, you can see just how far that has pushed that air.
Lovely.
Ready.
So, I was on the Grey Confederate uniform, wasn't I? Yes, the Grey Confederate uniform. Well, the Grey Confederate uniform is actually the cadet uniform. It's the cadet uniform that was used by cadets prior to the war. So when the war started, some Union cadets were still dressed in grey. You can see where the confusion's going to happen. Some Confederate regulars were still dressed in blue. And
just a note to add to this image, I don't have my tripod, I keep saying throughout the video, so that's why the hand's shaky, because I'm on a railing just trying to sort it out.
The gentleman to the left of
so the wobbly camera, drinking a cup of tea, watching a child, so please excuse the really bad filming.
Early war cadet uniform.
Well done, Archie, well done.
Bear in mind also that this is just a snapshot of a battle. An American Civil War battle would have been twice as densely packed in this kind of arena, this battle would have been 15, 20 times as wide that way or that way. This is just the edge of a battle.
Is he waving at you again?
I move the other side of our marching line. Our infantry, however, in the early war to mid-war, was still fighting the old Napoleonic style, line infantry.
Wow.
Our guys here, they are fighting the modern skirmish style. This begins to become more prevalent as the war goes on. But most of the Confederates, most of the Union, were still fighting wars in the old style of action. You see they're doing a wheel here. This is real parade ground stuff. This is happening, and sadly for everybody, it caused massive casualties because they weren't fighting a war that was designed to be fought by people with smoothbore muskets. They've actually now all got rifled guns. Enfields and Springfields are rifled guns. They, even though the still wasn't loaded, the bullet is ever so slightly too small, but it's flanged at the bottom, which opens when the charge is behind it, grips the rifle in, so you can fire 3 times a minute. Not only can you fire 3 times a minute, but you've now got a rifle that's not just capable of firing 50 yards like a smoothbore musket, very easily capable of firing 250 yards in the hand of a skilled man, or even in the hands of a complete novice. 100 metres is just out of the possibility. The first thing that happens when, of course, these rifles come into play in the American Civil War, the hardest lesson that they learn is cavalry charges stop happening. Cavalry charges just get shot to bits. So they stop happening. So the war begins to change. But the line infantry didn't learn this lesson until perhaps the middle of the war. The other thing that happened, that changed, is during the Napoleonic, everything was done by the drum, but it was already realised that the drum was getting drowned out by what was going on the battlefield. Cannons and guns tend to make thumping sounds, so the guns. So, while the drum was retained at regimental level, at army level of the book, now you begin to hear the bugle being used.
No.
There you go, another good smoke ring. The worst thing about this, perhaps, is the ammunition. You see, with the cavalry being predominantly the most powerful weapon of the Napoleonic era, there is some things that hang over. There's 2 things that hang over. First of all, you'll notice that the bayonets in the American Civil War are very long. Most people think this is a reach advantage. It's not. It's because that bayonet is not designed to kill a man, it's designed to kill a horse. Which is why, just after the First World War, all of the bayonets of all of the nations who go mechanical immediately shortened. But also the ammunition's 58 cal soft lead. This is horse-killing ammunition. When it hits a man, a 58 caliber ball squashes and then begins to deform and then disintegrates. By the time it reaches the bone of an arm, it's already in about 4 pieces. And then it hits the bone, frangulates, comes out the other side and tears everything off in between. Basically, one of these rounds will simply tear your arm or your leg off. And believe me, that happens, you're one of the lucky ones. Because if it hits you in the head, or it hits you in the chest, there's nothing they can do. If it hits you in the arm and makes that much of a mess, they can actually do a field amputation, which gives you about 30 to 50% chance of surviving. Misfire on the Confederate gun. So, crew return. They will now wait 1 minute. The gun now, just to show you what's going on here. Even though we are doing a battle reenactment, that is still a loaded gun and we're still going to be careful with it. Quite correctly, our Confederate gun crew have placed the guns in an X in front of the gun. I was talking about the variety of uniform. Well, I'm stood, there's a gentleman to my right who's got blue English military cloth on. It's completely sky blue jersey obviously that the Union are wearing, but you can see just here a mix of uniforms. The Union here look to me like they've been totally taken out. It looks like our Confederate buddies also. We've got X on that again, so be careful here. But now the Confederates are going to try and take the position. They're going to try and move forward. And the Union don't look like they've got many men left. And of course we have got two advancing lines of, and it looks to me like the Union are running. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a Confederate victory. A final volley across the field by our Confederates. And with that, it does look to me like the Union have lost the field. Now before we have one, they're cheering. Now, I mentioned earlier, these resources. But there's a catch. Don't forget that this is a war fought by Americans against Americans. There's a very real chance of these gentlemen encountering somebody they know here, even a family member. So the joy of war could immediately turn to something quite sad. 600,000 Americans died in this conflict. That's 1 in 50 people, 2% of the population. That might not seem that many till you think about all the people you know and how that would affect it. 600,000 people. The biggest killer of the war, by the way, was none of what happened here. It was disease. But today, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for our Confederates? Victorious on the field. And can we have a round of applause for our defeated Union as well? Now this is the bit I like to do, because I like from St. Baptists, if we've got in the audience. This is where I ask the dead of the field, please arise. I once did this and a lady said to me, only the Lord Jesus can do these things.